What if humanity had remained in darkness? What if no fire had ever touched our hands? What if the gods had kept every gift for themselves? This is the story of Prometheus, the titan who championed mankind and dared to challenge the gods. A tale of defiance, sacrifice, and eternal punishment. But why would a titan risk everything for humanity? What secret trick first provoked Zeus's fury? And why did the gift of fire given to mortals bring down such merciless wrath? A theft that changed the fate of mankind, a punishment that shook the heavens, and a defiance that echoes through the ages. Welcome to the story of Prometheus, the titan who defied Zeus. Long before the reign of Zeus and the Olympian gods, there existed the Titans, ancient colossal beings of immense power, born of the primordial earth and sky, Gaia and Uranus. Among them stood Prometheus, whose name means forethought. Unlike his kin, driven by ambition and pride, Prometheus was marked by wisdom, cunning, and compassion. When the great Titanomachy erupted, the old gods clashed with the rising Olympian gods led by Zeus. It was a battle of power, ambition, and destiny, stretching across the heavens and the earth. Prometheus, known for his wisdom and far-sightedness, foresaw that the future belonged to the Olympians. He persuaded his brother Prometheus to side with Zeus, offering his cleverness and strategic mind to the Olympians. After the Olympians secured their rule, Zeus tasked Prometheus and Prometheus with creating life on Earth. Prometheus distributed gifts to all living creatures: wings for birds, strength for beasts, claws for predators. But by the time he reached mankind, there were no gifts left. In the earliest age, humans were weak, fragile figures, subject to nature's cruelty, struggling to survive in a harsh and indifferent world. Prometheus took it upon himself to change their fate. He would guide humanity, forming them into beings capable of reason, strength, and survival. With his own hands, he shaped mankind from clay, molding their bodies with care and precision. He modeled them in the image of the gods themselves, giving humans a spark of divine likeness. Prometheus foresaw that mankind possessed the spark of potential, the ability to think, create, and rise beyond the limits set by the gods. He was, after all, their greatest champion. Zeus, proud and unyielding, viewed Prometheus's creation as an affront, a dangerous blurring of divine and mortal, fueling his deepening resentment. As mankind began to grow in number and strength, a new custom took root: the offering of sacrifices to the gods. It was a sacred practice, a way to honor the divine and seek favor in a world governed by capricious forces. At Mecone, a grand and ancient gathering place, gods and mortals came together to decide the terms of this ritual exchange. The question was simple, yet profound. What portion of the sacrificial offering should belong to the gods, and what should be reserved for mankind? Prometheus, ever the cunning protector of humanity, saw an opportunity to challenge the established order. He devised a test that would shift the balance of power, splitting an ox into two piles, one filled with bones cleverly covered in a layer of glistening fat, the other, the finest cuts of meat concealed beneath a layer of raw bones. When it was time for Zeus to choose the sacrifice, the proud king of Olympus, blinded by appearance and tricked by Prometheus, selected the pile of bones hidden beneath the layer of meat. From that day forward, a bitter precedent was set. Humans would retain the best meat for themselves, while the gods accepted only the bones, burnt in ritual flames. But this was no simple trick from Prometheus. It was an act of defiance. Prometheus's audacity had not just crossed a line, it had ignited an irreparable rift between man and divinity. Zeus's anger over the Mecone trick ran deep. In his desire to punish mankind, he withheld fire, the very element that allowed humans to thrive and to illuminate the dark world around them. Without fire, humanity teetered on the edge of extinction, vulnerable to the harshness of nature and the cruelty of fate. They were helpless against hunger and the merciless cruelty of a world full of darkness without hope. But Prometheus could not bear to see mankind suffer. He had shaped them with care, given them form and reason, and now, seeing the impending doom of mankind was an injustice he could not accept. Knowing the grave consequences of defying Zeus, Prometheus made the boldest of decisions. He would steal fire from the mighty gods themselves. Under the stillness of night, when Olympus slept, Prometheus began his journey to the abode of the gods. He made his way into the sacred forge of Hephaestus, the place where divine flames leapt and hissed, eternal and untamed. The fire was no mere element. It was the heartbeat of the gods, source of their craft, their power, their dominion over the mortal world. Prometheus approached the blaze, its light dancing across his face, the heat threatening to consume him. Yet, with steady hands and unyielding resolve, he reached into the inferno. From its heart, he plucked a single ember, small but burning with infinite potential. To carry this treasure, he chose the simplest of vessels, a hollow fennel stalk. Fragile, ordinary, yet carrying within it the essence of the gods. And so, with fire hidden in his grasp, Prometheus descended from the heights of Olympus. Each step he took was an act of defiance, carrying in his hands the future of mankind. In that single act of rebellion, mankind's destiny was forever transformed. Fire became their greatest ally, the spark that lifted them from weakness into power, from survival into civilization, from darkness into the promise of progress. It was not just warmth and light that Prometheus bestowed. It was knowledge, the power to rise above their natural limitations. But for Zeus, it was the ultimate betrayal. Zeus's fury was absolute. It was rebellion, a direct challenge to his reign. Prometheus would suffer a punishment as eternal as his crime. By Zeus's command, the task fell to Hephaestus, the god of fire and the forge. Hephaestus hesitated, for he pitied Prometheus, knowing that this punishment was not for treachery or ambition, but for compassion. Still, he could not defy the will of Zeus. With hammer and anvil, he shaped chains of unbreakable bronze, forged in divine flame to last for eternity. And so, Hephaestus delivered his creation, the cruel bonds that would hold a titan. Prometheus was fastened to a jagged cliff where sky and stone meet in solitude. But torment by chains alone was not enough. Each day, as the sun rose, Zeus's eagle, vast, merciless, unrelenting, descended from the skies. It tore into his flesh, feasting on his liver, the seat of vitality. And each night, under the cover of darkness, the wound closed, only for the agony to return at dawn. This was not punishment measured in years or centuries, but in eternity. Prometheus's crime was compassion, and for that he became a monument of suffering, bound by the will of Zeus, pitied even by the gods who carried out the sentence. Prometheus stands as more than a titan. He is the symbol of human ambition, of the eternal struggle between submission and progress, obedience and curiosity, fear and enlightenment. Through his gift of fire, mankind rose from darkness into knowledge, from instinct into reason. Yet, with every flame comes a shadow, the reminder that progress is never without cost. For every boundary broken, a price must be paid. To the poets and philosophers of ages to come, he became the archetype of rebellion, a hero who suffers for the sake of others, a martyr for enlightenment. He remains the spark that defines what it means to be human, to question, to create, to defy. Prometheus, the titan who stole fire, who challenged the gods, and who taught mankind that even in suffering, there is purpose.